Hello friends, I am Dr. Sourabh Patwardhan and in this video we'll be dealing with a black cataract using Alcon's Legion machine. So we'll be discussing the parameters, the tricks and technique which I'm going to use here. So as you can see here, this very dense black cataract, you can't see any glow through it. This patient has undergone other eye cataract surgery 25 years back, and at that time he was diagnosed to have cataract in this eye. So for last 25 years this has become denser and black. So I'm going to use the heavy dispersive OVD here, which is combination of chondroitin sulfate and hyaluronate. And I begin with the capsulexis. I have stained the anterior capsule using trypan blue. Though the cataract or the nucleus itself is black, the trypan blue will give little bit of contrast there, which is required for doing a relatively larger capsulorhexis. So here I generally target 5.5 capsulorhexis. So in case we need to convert it to manual SICS or ECC, a larger capsulorhexis is useful. Also, we do not want that during the maneuvers the force is transmitted to the bag. So a very gentle hydrodissection here, no forceful hydrodissection, because we want to avoid hydrorupture. The larger CCC of course helps in avoiding any hydrorupture there. And we start with the most important step while dealing with black cataract, which is the central deep range. So on the left side, you can see I'm going to use only Ozil, that is torsional phaco. This is a Kelman tip. This is a new tip. It's because it has to be sharp while dealing with this black cataract, and I'm using 100% power, torsional power on linear mode. And because this is a black cataract, I have to use 100% so that the tip can cut this very dense nucleus. As you can see that I'm making sure that I go very slow while emulsifying this nucleus, and also I go deeper and also create a larger groove so that the tip can reach the deeper layers of this dense black cataract. So we have to be very careful as well as very patient in order to reach a proper depth. So I want to kind of emulsify till 90% of this depth of this dense brown nucleus, so which will be around 2.5 width deeper. So that's what I have achieved here. So I rotate it 180-degree. Now vacuum and flow rate here is low. The bottle height kept here is 90 to 95 centimeter. And again I am going deeper and deeper. You can see I'm looking at the deeper layers of this nucleus now. And you can see that in the central part now I started seeing that yellowish reflex, and that indicates that I have gone quite deep. Now let's look at the parameters for doing the chop. So I'm using 100% longitudinal but 30% on time and 5 pulses per second. So the on time is less than 50%. That makes it safe for the cornea, no wound burn there. And I've kept the same bottle height, 40 flow rate and 450 vacuum, both on panel mode. So the panel mode gives it kind of a speed or holdability just like a Venturi machine. So I bury deep using this longitudinal pulses, and once it is buried, once I have a good hold, I crack it. And once I crack it, the crack should go till the posterior plate, and that's what I am trying to do. I'm trying to bury somewhere and then make sure that the crack is completed till the posterior plate, as you can see that I have achieved here. 1.5 Patwardhan chopper which I am using here is really useful. And as we move on to further division of this heminuclei, you can see that my chopper, after I bury the tip, this is a Kelman tip, 45-degree tip. The chopper, you can see, does a wonderful job going layer by layer or level by level. That is what is called as multi-level chop. Once I bury the phacotip into the dense nucleus, you can watch that once I've got a hold, The phaco chopper, which is a Patwardhan 1.5 mm chopper, goes deep till the posterior plate. It doesn't have any sharp tip, so the posterior capsule is quite safe while using this chopper. One heminucleus is done, so I am dividing each heminucleus into at least three or four parts. You can watch those posterior fibers, they are getting separated by use of the chopper. And also, the most important thing is hold on the nucleus, which is provided by longitudinal pulses there, and we can give further more pulses so that a good hold on this nucleus is achieved. Further pieces are being done here, and cracking till the posterior plate, which makes it easier to then emulsify. Now, before we go ahead with quadrant removal, I am going to replenish the heavy dispersive OVD and then put some HPMC into the bag. So, this is like a soft shell technique, a modified one. And now let's look at the parameters. 100% linear torsional energy with 80% on time and 5 pulses, while on vacuum side it's going to be 500 linear vacuum and a flow rate again on panel mode of 42, which makes it quicker, at the same time very well controlled. I don't want any fluctuations in the chamber while doing the quadrant removal. I try to make sure that the phaco tip always lies at the iris plane and the pieces stay at the iris plane. They don't come into the anterior chamber as far as possible. So that's what I'm doing, and as you can see, my phaco tip is staying in that central safe zone. I'm trying to avoid it going to the periphery, just using my left hand Sinski there. That's a 0.5 mm Sinski in my left hand now, which with which I am controlling the movement of these fragments in the anterior chamber, avoiding any damage to the endothelium. Again, after heminucleus is removed, I am going to replenish the heavy dispersive OVD, rotate this nuclei in front, again put some HPMC into the bag and get ready for the remaining pieces removal. Now here again the parameters are kept same, 5 pulses per second, and as you can see on the left side there will be some longitudinal energy which is delivered, which is because of the intelligent phaco. IP is on. I keep the threshold for IP as 95%. So whenever the 95% of vacuum is reached, it will give pulses of around 80% of the power which is set at pulses of 5 pulses per second. So this avoids the blockage of the tip. But sometimes you can see here that tip has still blocked. You can see even without occlusion, the vacuum is showing a very high number there. So that means the tip is blocked here. So at this point, what I do is that I give my phaco probe to my assistant. You can see that fallibility is lost. So I give it to my assistant in a fluid chamber, which is there at the artificial chamber. The phaco tip will be inserted, and then further longitudinal energy is delivered in that chamber, so it releases the block in the tip. Sometimes we may have to clean the tip or change the tip if we find that it's still persisting. So that is something we have to watch for when we are dealing with this dense brown cataract, then black cataract. What is important is that with ozil the chances of tip blockage is high, so we have to always keep the IP on. Another method is to keep little bit of longitudinal alternating with the torsional phaco. So for example, here I am keeping 100% torsional. I can keep 50% longitudinal with 20% on time with it, so that it avoids blockage of the tip. When the tip is blocked, we have to always watch for lack of fallibility, and then we have to make sure that the tip is again free, or it's not blocked again. In case of block tip, there is a chance of wound burn. That is why we have to be careful. But the beauty of this machine is the ozil or torsional phaco energy, which avoids or reduces the chance of wound burn, if any. So that's the end of the phaco there. There are a few pieces which are remaining. So I'm just carefully pulling them to the center. These are dense nuclei. I don't want to leave even a small piece there inside because it might induce inflammation. So that's the end of the phaco, and then I'm going to remove the cortex using the coaxial IA with the angled IA tip. That is my favorite. And the parameters here again, the flow rate is on panel mode, vacuum is on linear mode. And you can see with the 1995 centimeter of butterfly height, the antechamber is extremely stable. There is a posterior capsular plaque, but I decided to leave it alone. This has formed because it's a long standing cataract. If required, I will do yak capsulotomy in the post-operative period, so that's not an issue. It's important that we remove all the OVD from the bag and from the anterior chamber so that patient has very quiet post-operative period. No inflammation should be there. So now let's look at the incision. You can see that it seals perfectly with just hydration of the side part and the roof of the incision, indicating that there is no wound burn. The cornea is clear at present. I make sure that AC is well formed at the end of the surgery there, and there is no wound leak. If you are unsure, you can also use trypan blue dye to make sure that there is no wound leak. And let's see the post-operative day one picture. You can identify the same eye seeing that PC plaque, and you can see the cornea is crystal clear, pristine clear. Even when we use CDE or the energy of more than 50, we achieved a clean cornea because of the right technique, good OVD, and the machine which delivers a torsional phaco. Thank you so much.